This morning we quickly looked at a game that we're going to play, and I wanted to quickly review the game with you, and then I'm going to allow you to start playing the game. My name is Hillary Pastor. I teach grade 5 at the Lincoln School in Brookline, Massachusetts. We talked about that this is the fraction track activity, and for this activity you are going to be moving your chips from the 0 side over to the 1 side. Today's lesson, students had to line up markers along fraction lines, and they were asked to pull a card from the fraction card pile and find ways to move chips from one end of the board to the other end of the board to reach one hole. And the card that we said we were going to talk about this morning was 8/10. Did anybody think of a way in which you can move your piece across to the other side if our card was 8/10?
Instead of using 8/10, you could use 2/5, and you could 4/5, and you could go to 4/5 or 8/10.
So I could go to 4/5 or 8/10, so one or the other?
Yeah.
How did you know 4/5 was a good move?
Because 8/10 and 4/5 are equivalent.
Okay.
So both of them would work.
Is there a way that I could move 2 pieces rather than just 1? Because in the way in which you described, Rebecca, I have to use either on the 5th line or the 10th line, but I couldn't use both. Is there a way I could start again and try and use both?
You can first go to 4/10.
4/10. Okay.
And that would be halfway.
All right.
And then you can go to 4/5.
4/5? Tell me what you're thinking about that.
Since they're both equivalent, so when you go halfway.
But now I moved 4/10.
4/10.
Can I move the whole 4/5 now?
2/5.
2/5? Because then if I move 2/5, because 2/5 plus 4/10 would then equal how much?
8/10.
8/10. The students know a great deal about equivalencies. We've done a number of activities which led them to the point where they can use them regularly and more frequently. We started by having them draw fraction cards in which they would have a fraction such as 2/4, and they would draw a picture to model that, and then they try to find other fractions that equal the same amount. And then they strung them on a clothesline, ordering fractions and lining up equivalencies. We started keeping a list in the classroom of equivalencies that they knew and they came across of, so we would always be referring back to this list. So after a number of days of working with them, they started to become second nature to them, and they were able to move around between them. What I want everybody to do now is you're going to start the game. You only need, between you and your partner, 1 fraction track. I also want to remind you that you have to keep track of your moves. So on your fraction track strategy sheet, I want you to write down the fraction card that you pulled and 2 to 3 possible moves before you decide to move. Because the goal of the activity is for you as a team to move your pieces across to one hole. And in order to do that, there's more than one way you can get there. So in order to do that, I want you to think of the best move. So one move you're saying, Sean, is you could do what?
I could just do 4/10.
You could
or
just
I could do 2/10 and 1/5.
How does he know 2/10 and 1/5 would be something that would work?
Because 1/5 is half of 4/10, and 1/5 is equivalent to 2/10.
Excellent. Write down those 2 strategies that Sean has, and I'm going to go deal with the little problem over there, and then I'm going to come back and see what you come up with. If there might not be another one, but there might be another one you could do.
Okay.
So think about it before you move.
So we could do 2/5. I thought 4/8. Oh yeah, because 2/5, and because you just doubled that. Yeah, because it's equivalent. So we could do. So I gotta write down the 2 things. So 2/10 and 1/5. 1/5 and 4/10 and 4/10. Okay. Now I can any possible or 2/5. 2/5. Buy that.
What card are we doing?
6/10.
Okay. The last time I got 2 6, and then I just picked up 8 8s.
All right.
So,
But she knows she can go to 8/8.
All right.
But she has to start off from there, and we can't tie in 6 with 8. Sorry, we don't know what to do.
So is your question that you have 8/8, but on your 8th line, you're at 2/8?
No.
One of the areas they were having difficulties with was finding agreement with what move they wanted to make. I think that one student might have seen an easier move, but another student saw something a little bit more complicated. And going around the room and giving them ways in which to show their thinking to each other helped them to be able to negotiate about which move they wanted to make.
I can move on my 4th, and what kind of move would I make there?
You can go the rest of these. You can do 6/8.
6/8 and then take 2/8 which would be 1/4.
I could do that.
So that would go up to 2/4.
Why 2/4?
Because 6/8.
Okay, you have 6/8, and what did you say you could move next?
You need to go 2 more 8s.
I could, so that's plus 2/8, because that would equal 8/8.
Right.
But you were giving me the suggestion of moving on my 4th line. Can I do that? 6/8 plus what equals 8/8?
1/4.
Tell Tamara how you got that 1/4, because I'm not sure she knows.
Because 6/8 is 6/8. But 1/4 is 2/8.
And 1/4 is the same as 2/8, so he's doing this. So now you can take this chip off, put a new one on here, and you move that one.
2/10. I can't move that. Wait.
Is anything equivalent?
Oh yeah. No, wait. I'm still trying to. I can't do that.
2/10 is equal
I can't
to
move at all.
4/5.
Is that possible?
I mean,
Can't move at all.
I mean, no,
So
1/5.
do you just skip your turn if you can't?
Yes.
Okay. 2/10.
That's 1/5. Okay, so we've got. You have to skip your turn too, I guess.
Okay.
One more. And we just got 1/8. 1/8.
Okay, 6/8.
What's equal to 1/8?
No. Where are the 1/8?
There's nothing equivalent to
This is
1/8.
ridiculous.
I can go
We need to get 2/4 to get a whole. We need to get wait, this is right here. We need to get 5/5, 5/6. Next card. 3/6.
One of the benefits to having students share their strategies and having students work together is they bring things to their own language, they expand upon the ideas with their examples, and they question and challenge each other in a different way so that they can get to a truer meaning of the math.
And so, wait, are we moving? We're done. Wait, we can't move thirds because we already
I
did
got
it.
3/4.
Oh yeah. Okay, so 5/8.
Can you walk me through what you decided to do?
Okay. Well, we put it onto 2/4 and then 3/8. Joe is doing it with the blocks.
You want to explain to us how you use these?
I took these, and this was 7/8.
So you built 7/8 first.
And then you took 4ths and put them there. We take these, and you move them.
What does this show you by putting them here?
That's 1/2.
It is 1/2. What else does it show you? It shows you 2/4. Why do you think I wanted you to look at that? What were we trying to figure out?
It showed like we split up the 7/8 and we made it into a different fraction. We made it into a 2/4 and a 3/8, and that kind of helped us break it up.
One student decided to get the fraction pieces to help them figure out how to use the fractions that they were working with. They clearly at first didn't see to take 7/8 and move it off of the 8th line, but once they were given an opportunity to explore it first, they were able to figure out a way to move to another line or move in different ways.
What are some things we can do with 9/10?
What I was gonna do was.
Okay.
And one more.
Need one more?
Yeah,
Pull it
that's
out. Here's one more.
I picked a card and it had 2/8, but I had a chip on 1/4.
Okay.
So instead of going to 2/8, 2/8 is equal to 1/4. So
Okay.
I just added 1/4 and got to 1/2.
Great. Why was he able to do that?
Because 2/8
is equivalent to 1/4, and instead of putting down 2/8, he put it as 1/4, and 1/4 out of 1/4 equals 2/4.
Very good. Tamara, you want to share? Good.
First, I had a chip on 2/6, and then I pulled out the card that said 6/6. So instead of doing this all over, I went 1, 2, 3, 4, which is 1 whole, and then I went up to half. To half of 6 is 3. That was 4. So it went 5, 6, which got me to 1/3, because I know that 1/3 is 2/6, so it would be 1/2. So the third would be 1/2 of the 6.
Okay. Can anybody try and rephrase what Tamara just said?
She was on 2/6, so she pulled up the card 6/6.
I found that through rephrasing, kids are much more in tune to the lesson. If they know that they're going to need to rephrase, it builds in that accountability that, yes, there is something valuable here for you to be learning, and now you need to be paying attention to that so that you can rephrase it. I also have kids rephrase it as an assessment for myself.
I think we're running out of time, so we need to stop. What I'd like to say is a couple things. First of all, I was really impressed with the number of strategies you were able to use today. Tomorrow, you are going to play this game again, but we're going to see if the game is any different having to go to 2 and what more strategies you need to be thinking about tomorrow.
My math skills have grown tremendously from teaching math differently to my students because I get right involved in the investigations with them, and I have doubled what I knew. I never considered myself this great mathematician, and I still at points find, fractions. But as I work with my students and I see how you can manipulate the information very differently than standing there and just teaching, an equivalent fraction is this. Once you get to that deeper meaning, deeper understanding, it makes more sense.
What are the pros and cons of using cooperative games? How do materials, such as fraction pieces, enhance student understanding? How could this lesson be extended?